ultimate fishing authority in the Northeast, the Fisherman magazine.
No guessing, just catching. New Explore Series fish finders keep you locked on fish with unbeatable clarity, best-in-class imaging options, and a stunning ultra-bright HD screen. There's more to explore, only with Humminbird.
I'm Jim Hutchinson with a New Jersey Delaware Bay edition of the Fisherman magazine here at Seaview Country Club on New York Road, which I do believe is Route 9, in Galloway Township for the Mid-Atlantic Fishery Management Council meeting. I'll give you an update on what was discussed in Wednesday's joint session together with the Council and the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission. But let's start off first with the good stuff. Run through a few reports this week for your Thursday video fishing forecast. On Thursday, April 10th, we'll see what's in store for the weekend ahead. Sun finally blazing this week, still colder temperatures, but we're finally expecting a little bit more comfortable weather because it certainly hasn't been very comfortable since sometime Saturday afternoon. Rain, things got a little chilly, and that's the way we've been. April showers, you know they bring May flowers, so that's all good. We expect to be seeing things blooming soon enough, and I see the tulips and the daffodils coming up here at Seaview. But we had here in Galloway rain just about everywhere along the Jersey Shore, of course, and our forecast for this week here out of Galloway Township, or in Galloway, over a half an inch of rain is in the forecast for this Friday, another 3/4 of an inch into early Saturday morning. Temps only in the high 40s, but things do start to shape up, especially as we get into Sunday and then the beginning of another work week. The cloudy, overcast, and rainy, chilly conditions have not impeded folks from going out, wetting a line, and trying to catch some fish, especially those folks on the Delaware River who continue to catch and release some big striped bass. The catch of the week this week arrived in my email on Tuesday from Bag Boy Scoot, caught south of the Delaware Memorial Bridge on Monday, using bloodworms wrapped in tulle. Yes, the blood bag. It's something we spoke about in the last several weeks. I'm going to try to put the card, little link up here, directly to Adam Aguiar's tips from a few weeks ago if you want to try to tie one of those blood bags. But those big fish, those big striped bass, are moving upriver to spawn. But now we're finding more big bass are spread out on both sides of the bay. In fact, Michael Clock, he sent this to us before the April kickoff. Michael said he's been successful kayaking his way into a few early season, think March, schoolies, but some larger specimens now in the mix as well in the backwaters of Lewis, just off of Delaware Bay. And Michael said mostly trolling and casting swim baits. So that time has come. Same in the North Country. Raritan Bay, our weekly reports this week at thefisherman.com, they show that the staging area striper fishery up there on the Raritan before these fish conceivably, theoretically, essentially, go up the Hudson River to spawn, but it started to catch fire sometime this past Friday afternoon. Steve at Upfront Bait and Tackle in Keyport, he said in his report, bass and bunker were spread out throughout the bay. He reported some better fishing for striped bass in the backwaters, Perth Amboy, South Amboy, Keensburg, and Cliffwood. Phil at the Tackle Box in Hazlitt had much the same report, said it blew up last Friday, Cliffwood, South Amboy, and Union. Bloodworms, as well as SP minnows and metal lip swimmers as well. A lot of fish were over the slot, even some up to 30 pounds. That's according to Phil and the crew at the Tackle Box. By the way, this Saturday is Bluff Day. This Saturday, April 12th, Bluff Day. And I'm not talking about bluffing your way through a golf score or a fishing report. I'm talking about a brand new tackle outfitter, a manufacturer. It's somebody that Phil has told me is a mad scientist in the world of fishing tackle. But you can come out and meet with Dan from Bluff Lures this Saturday from 9 to 2 at the Tackle Box. The Buds and Bass guys will be there. Go Deep, Assault, and Hog Heaven food truck. That's enough to drag my fat butt up there. That's the south side, the eastbound Route 36 in Hazlitt, Tackle Box, Bluff Day. It's on your right as you're heading towards Sandy Hook on Route 36, and that's going to be from 9 till 2. Bluff, there's a lot of bluffing that goes on this time of year. And if your friends have gone dark, not posting on social media, nor are they answering your texts and phone calls, it might be because they're bluffing you, that it's on. I got an email on Saturday This email, he was out on the previous day before on high tide. Did I catch his name? My apologies. I think it's Mike. Out on the previous day before high tide on the Raritan, the river, the Raritan Bay, bass were chewing lots of marks. His old reliable magic tails started getting him into fish. Reported a good crowd there along the bank. Seemed like everyone was catching. This was Tom. Tom said they were catching fish between the Parkway Bridge and the Route 9 Bridge, though he marked a bunch of fish in the Perth-Amboy area. So a lot of marks. I'm hearing from a lot of charter captains who are out there. I know Victor Hartley on the Keyport Princess has been out, and thus far, it's more marks than fish. But he's had a couple of decent days, and some of the other charter captains are finding the same thing. So maybe with a little bit more of that thing in the sky, a little bit more sun, a little bit more warmth, those marks will start turning into catches, because the fish are certainly there. It's just still been on the cool side. We need the wind to lay down, the temps to rise, and the rest of April up on the Raritan should be solid for you striped bass fanatics. Speaking of which, Fanatics, just a little south of me, Fanatics in Ocean City, they were selling fresh shucked clam in the shop last week, and that's a good indication of that transition in bait selection. I know the guys along the Delaware Bay, Delaware River, they're going to be using bloodworms for as long as it takes, maybe some cut shad. But we're certainly at that time of year now where we can start transitioning to other soft baits like clam before we also switch over to bunker. But the benefit, of course, of using clam this time of year, well, you get an early shot at some of those early black drum. And we have had those black drum reports in the last couple of weeks. Another sure bet, surprisingly, of late has been tog. Now, I thought that the jetty tog bite was going to be a little bit slow to materialize, if it even did during the month of April because of the cold winter we had. Think jetties, canals, and back bay bridges if you're anchored up back there. But there are some fish being caught. And bait-wise, shops like Sea Isle Bait and Tackle now offering a little bit of variety. The hot bait, according to Mike, has been sand fleas, those sand crabs. They have them both reds and grays, also green crabs, shrimp, and salted clams. So you start seeing the seasonal bait migration. Speaking of baits and crabs moving out of the shop and lots of tog being caught from shore, not far from where I am right now, over on the Atlantic City Rocks, Noel at One Stop Bait and Tackle said jetty action is, of course, banging with blackfish, plenty of them. Now, if you're looking for a charter or a headboat to get out to the wrecks and reefs where the better tog bite can be found, pick up that April edition of the Fisherman magazine, turn to the reports section, and you will find all the options that are available. We have so many charter boat captains and headboat captains advertising in the Fisherman magazine, but they post those sailing schedules in the middle of the magazine. Do not forget, when you get that April edition of the Fisherman magazine, the Dreamboat Fishing Challenge will kick off on May 1st. You can read up on the rules, the prizes, and the details on how you could win a $75,000 Steiger Yamaha Minn Kota Humminbird prize package as a subscriber this season. A 2025 stock report, not the stocks that continue to fluctuate in our bank accounts, but the trout stock. Tom P. from Rack and Fin Radio and Creekside Outfitters has that article in the April edition. Plus, we've got Stockton University just up the road here, a profile from one alum on what comes after college, and yes, it often involves fishing. You've got Adapting to Bait and Migration Tactics with Captain Scott Newhall and Frank Mahalik. Talks over those tog tactics that you're going to be enjoying at the Jersey Shore for the month of April. Transition from winter to spring, it's all in there. It's all in that April edition of the Fisherman magazine. It's in newsstands, tackle shops. I know it's right down the road at Absecon Bay Sportsman Center and Chestnut Neck, a little bit to my north as well. We are still waiting for our first reported weakfish of the 2025 season, perhaps after this next full moon. This Saturday, it's the pink moon, one which I believe pretty much triggers a lot of that last bait migration that we're seeing in the region. The full moon of April was also referred to as the egg moon, which in Native American culture is associated with the beginning of the nesting and spawning season, the nesting birds laying their eggs. It's also the fish moon. A lot of the coastal tribes here in our region referred to this moon in April as the fish moon because of the spawning of fish. Think shad, also think striped bass, and perhaps weakfish. That's also when our black drum arrive for the spawn sometime after this moon, in theory, on the Delaware Bay. Egg-laden tide runner weakfish as well. And of course, the cycle of striped bass from the Delaware to the Raritan and ultimately up the Hudson River throughout the month of April into May. The best of the striper fishing is still ahead of us here in the New Jersey, Delaware Bay region. Weakfish is like our saltwater trout in New Jersey, but do not ignore the freshwater version, the freshwater trout fishery in New Jersey. Even if you're a coastal angler, it is so cool to go out there and get that freshwater license and that stamp, because you do find that a lot of the coastal environments now, with the Division of Fish and Wildlife, have been doing a lot more with these put and take areas. Water bodies that don't typically hold trout throughout the year, but certainly for the spring run, gives you an opportunity to get out there close to shore, believe it or not, and catch yourself a good trout. This is the blind squirrel nut post of the week. Yours truly. I was sneaked back over to Spring Lake on Sunday after the kids tournament that happened on Saturday. I had a small chartreuse black tiger rooster tail, and if I can catch some of those big old brookies, or brownies, I'm sorry, some of those big brown trout, I would love to catch a brookie as well, because the brookies and browns I find eat a lot better than the rainbow trout. But I got to thank the guys from the Shark River Surf Anglers for putting plenty of fish in there in Spring Lake.
Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Open Boat. We are back in Spring Lake for the Shark River Surf Anglers Kids Trout Tournament. Now, just a friendly reminder, it is opening day for trout season this year, and this is a kids-only tournament, so if you're an adult and you're trying to trout fish here, there's plenty of other spaces to go to. Like, go on the Fish and Wildlife website and you can check where those trout have been stocked. But if you have your family, you got neighbors that want to get into fishing, this is a great spot to get into fishing. And I have some eager anglers here, Miss Scarlett, Ray, and Vinny, who are ready to catch some trout. Let's go, give me high fives. Let's go.
This is my first ever fish.
Oh my God.
Oh! What is happening? Trying to pick
What is happening?
There you go. Oh, almost.
Come on, let's give her applause.
There you go.
Girl, you got one, you guys. There you go. Atta girl. We're going to have a big round of applause for him. So just to give you an idea of the grand prize, we had a lot of things donated, and the grand prize is close to about $2,000, believe it or not. So there's charters on here, there's rods and reels, there's different things involved, tackle bags, and just a lot of good gift certificates and things of that nature. So, you know, a lot of the prizes for the older kids and everything are really put together with the area and the town and everything donating. So you should be very happy about that. So it's a very nice prize for someone to win. And our grand prize winner this year is Douglas Aspley, 12 years old. Where's Douglas? My man. Where'd he go?
In the famed waters of Panama awaits a fishing experience like no other. Tropic Star Lodge welcomes anglers to get in on world-famous fishing action. Plan your perfect trip today. Tropic Star Lodge, the ultimate in fishing adventures for more than 60 years.
So from Spring Lake out to the Raritan, Ramapo, and Paulinskill on up to the Poconos, it's all about trout and shad and a whole host of other freshwater targets. For more on the sweetwater action, we're going to send it out west to my friend George, the Pocono outdoors guy.
Well, hey, thanks, Jim. You know, last week we were asking you guys to give us all your pictures you got on the opening day of trout. Well, you guys were outstanding and everybody seemed to respond. I'm going to show you a few highlights there. We couldn't possibly show you all the pictures you guys sent in, but we'll try to share them as we go through the season. Well, it was certainly a harsh weekend as you guys got out, but a lot of guys did get out and tackle the opening day of trout. We had several guys check in. I'm going to give you a sample of what the guys were catching around the area. Jake Fogel checked in. He was getting a bunch of rainbows to get the season started off right. He managed to get these and some Jolly Joel's salmon eggs, he said, so kind of a great way to get the trout season started. Of course, you have lots of options. You got inline spinners, you got small jerk baits, and even that old standby, you know, that Berkeley power bait always seems to get the job done as well. Clayton Haney also checked in with a monster of a brook trout. It was about 23 inches for a brookie. That's pretty friggin' amazing is my book. But he actually released it, so it was a good catch there and a good release. Dave Kyle checked in. He was out by the Harrisburg area, getting to a nice rainbow out there on the Susquehanna. Dave Drake and his grandson checked in. They had a banner day out there. His grandson Caleb, that was his first time trout fishing, so it was a great first day out on the water. Now moving over to the Delaware River, you know, the shad bite has been a little up and down, still going forward in this cold weather. We've got the rain to deal with, a little bit of high water. You know, there's some rock snot coming down the river. You got a little bit of wind. It's making it difficult, but the guys are out getting onto some shad. We're still seeing some double digits caught, but not the same numbers as we were. Hopefully over the next few days, we get this cold front out of the way, we can get back into that big shad run and start getting those high numbers like we're used to. Speaking of the river, stripers continue to move upriver. A few guys are checking in. We did have Jack Lane check in with a really nice striper he got in the Philly area. Again, bloodworms are getting the trick done there, so good work there, Jack. Other fishing around the area, we did have bass moving up into the shallow waters. We had Rich Bates check in. He was up in Wallenpaupack. He was in fishing real shallow with a zoom fluke. He said the bass are just chasing bait up in that shallow water. So lots of options, guys. If you want to get out over the next week and get it done, just get out and get on them. But from Pennsylvania, I'm George, your Pocono Outdoors guy.
I'm going to sneak back inside here at Seaview to see what's going on inside the council meeting. But first, from the Pocono Mountains to the Pacific coast of Costa Rica, we've got an end-of-season report from my friend Captain Benn, jackpot sport fishing at a Marina Pez Vela in Capos.
Guys, good morning. How's it going? This is Ben Gilmore from down here in Costa Rica, the Marina Pez Vela. How you all doing up there? Guys, this week we got the Offshore World Championships happening here in Costa Rica. 34 teams from all over the world battling it out to see who could be crowned this year's world champions. Just an amazing week down here in Costa Rica, guys. The fishing right now is solid. Yesterday we caught 10 sailfish, and the day before, guys, we caught a blue marlin for almost 4 hours. Just insane stuff. A fish of around 400 to 500 pounds, but we hooked it on the light 30-pound gear. Along the beaches and the rocks, we got roosterfish, snook and snapper, and there's been some solid yellowfin tuna fishing offshore as well. Wish everyone luck here in Costa Rica for the Offshore World Championships, and we hope to see you down here soon. Pura vida.
For more than 20 years, anglers everywhere have come to know one thing, that nothing says no to fish bites.
So again, the Mid-Atlantic Fishery Management Council, they're the ones that are responsible for the management of Mid-Atlantic coastal waters, but outside the 3-mile line in federal waters, right? So that's from New York to North Carolina federal waters. Then you've got the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission, the ASMFC, who handles the state waters inside 3 miles, all along the Atlantic coast. So both deliberative bodies getting together this week here at the Seaview Country Club in Galloway, New Jersey for joint sessions to look at the recreational measure setting process framework, which is essentially the recreational management reform efforts we've been talking about over the last couple of years, but also the recreational sector separation and data collection amendment that's also on the docket, or it was on Wednesday here at Seaview. Now, these were the big topics on Wednesday as I was here to listen in on. I should explain pretty quickly here that the council itself, the Mid-Atlantic Council, it includes 13 voting members. They're appointed by the Secretary of Commerce, recommended by state governors. There are 7 obligatory seats, 6 at-large seats. Members are appointed for a term of 3 years, and no one can serve more than 3 terms. But if you look at that chart, look at that lineup right there, we are currently missing an at-large member. Apparently one of the at-large members from New York stepped down, so there's only 12 council members. This is not a Murphy thing, but perhaps Governor Murphy can go after that at-large seat because it is an at-large seat. So let's move on. First, in the morning, Wednesday, the council and commission took a vote on summer flounder, scup, black sea bass, and bluefish recreational measures setting process framework. That's the Recreational Reform Initiative. Now, after several hours of presentation, discussion, questions, and debate, the final action was in support of options C and C2 for fluke sea bass and porgy measures. That was favored by a majority of saltwater anglers for better stability for 2026. Bluefish will be coming in 2028. That's under its own process now as we rebuild that stock. But also D and D2 will go into effect sometime around 2030, I believe, or perhaps 2031. This passed by a 15-2 vote on Wednesday. Now, there was some opposition. The Nature Conservancy, Natural Resources Defense Council, they came out in opposition to this option C, which was preferred. Greg DiDomenico of Lund Seafood, He believed in option D because I think that was a stronger and more stricter policy because it has to do with dead discards. But, quote, weak on accountability measures. That was what many of the folks who opposed that option C, the commercial folks, the ENGOs, the Enviros, the American Saltwater Guides Association, they wanted to have the D in there for mortality rates of fish. So that's going to come down the road. But these other groups that I just mentioned too, one of the things that these folks have wanted to see is more accountability and more payback, more punishment in the recreational sector. So that was a little bit discouraging. But option C supporters, included myself, the majority of commenters, as they noted here, and also some of our strongest allies, including Mike Waine from the American Sportfishing Association, who had this to say on how the vote turned out and what we'll be in for in the angling community over the next few years.
We've been working on this for many years, and this has been under a recreational management reform pursuit, and ultimately option C results in more stability and management measures for bag size and season moving forward. And so that was something that we felt was really important to the community, was making sure that businesses and anglers had a better understanding of what their bag size and season would be for these important recreational fisheries, summer flounder, scup, black sea bass, bluefish, moving forward. And so setting measures for 2 years at a time and ultimately accounting for some of the uncertainty and variability in the recreational catch data is what led us to option C and providing that stability in some of the management measures. So today's decision was using that approach through 2030, and then in 2030 they'll move to an option D, which was just accounting for discards when recreational bag size and seasons are set. And so between now and 2030, it will give the opportunity to evaluate what that will look like in terms of management measures, and that analysis will help us better understand that transition to using option D. But ultimately today the outcome was more and better management stability for the region, and that was all part of this recreational management reform initiative that the Mid-Atlantic Council, the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission, NOAA Fisheries, and the stakeholders in our community have supported over the past several years, and will continue to support as we make this transition.
And then on Wednesday afternoon, in the sessions back here at Seaview, came the sector separation discussion and vote. Now, Maryland's Mike Waine, he called this perhaps the biggest issue to be tackled by the council and commission over the next 10 years. Mode management or sector separation. Perhaps it's a distinction without a difference. But in discussions over dividing the recreational community into two parts, for hire anglers and private, it would all depend if they were just tackling separate regulations for anglers on for hire boats and anglers in private boats, or a separate quota. The latter, in my opinion, represents the end of recreational fishing and our community as we know it. So here's the way things went down. But following an official review by the council and commission, which also included mandatory reporting, by the way, it's not just sector separation, but mandatory angler reporting. We have to keep logs, or we have to follow up on a fish app. But the next step is taking public comment that was received thus far and all the discussion that happened at the council meeting this week, and then to have staffers work up draft alternatives later on this summer. So the next public hearings on this sector separation will come sometime in 2026. But I would mention this, that New Jersey's Adam Nowalski, he made a simple motion to continue with this management per the timeline. But some of the other council members and commission members felt it wasn't strong enough. So they made a substitute motion, put sector separation, I should do this, sector separation back into the motion rather than mode management, so that issue 1 now becomes a primary focus as staff continues along the lines of this divisionary tactic, separating the recreational fishing community into for hire anglers and private anglers. We'll be watching this story very closely in the next several months, all the way into next year. Finally, this week, I'll leave you with an interesting parting shot. A Facebook post from the folks at Grumpy's Tackle in Seaside on Tuesday. They were saying that they sent a customer out with salted clams just to do a little bit of recon along the front beaches. Well, that customer, Vasilios, sent back this photo. A fish hit his dead-sticked rod so hard it broke the sand spike. Drum? Big striper? That's the question Grumpy's had, and hopefully you'll have as you look for answers heading out this weekend. Again, it's warming up on Sunday. Hope to see you out there. Otherwise, catch them up, and I'll see you again here next week at thefisherman.com.